What up, homies? Okay, I'm super inspired to share this with you. Whoa! Wow! Okay, super inspired. Let me just make sure that the whole internet thing is working well because I was on here yesterday, or I don't know, when was it? Yesterday, the day before, and it wasn't syncing up. So I just want to make sure that it is actually. Oh, yeah. Sweet. Okay, awesome. So here's the message. And it's essentially about how you break through. And this can be applied to a lot of different areas. But what I mean by breaking through, what I'm passionate about, what I'm interested in, what I consider myself something that I'm really good at. And of course, there's always more to grow in and expand into. Like I recently shared, everything is relative, right? There's always greater and deeper levels that we can step into, that we can rise up into, that we can express. So for the purpose of this live stream, I'm talking about self-expression, creative self-expression, but this can be applied towards breaking through in, in a goal that you might be having. So, a couple of different things that I want to give you guys as context, okay? Number one, I was super inspired to share this because, and I actually posted this, you can go and check this out in my stories, and it's also, I posted it on my main page here, is Shayla Boo, or Shayla Buff, however you say his name, was recently talking about how, he developed this character trait or this attitude of not giving a fuck about what other people think. And it was so, when I saw that, it just like, it straight through the heart. And I felt so seen. I was just like, oh my God, that's so me. That's so me. And funny enough, what is hilarious is that I was having a conversation just last night, I was having a conversation with my son about this. What's up, Crystal? Wait till you hear this. Oh my God, this message is so awesome. Listen, so stoked. Okay. So I was having a conversation with my son last night about my different strengths and my different weaknesses, because right now I'm doing some work on emotional intelligence. And, and so I'm receiving feedback about different people's perception of me, their perception of me. And so one of the things that my son brought up is he said, it's really interesting in that, a lot of these things that I would say are your strengths are also can be weaknesses, and or your weaknesses are also some of your greatest strengths. And this was what he said. He was just like, you don't really care what other people think about you. And so I want to talk about this because this is and can be a double-edged sword. It can totally be a double-edged sword. And it has served me really, really well. It has served me so well when it comes to me stepping into my personal freedom, meaning being who I want to be, being seen for who I want to be seen as. So let me go into this a little bit more. Growing up, I didn't receive, or I didn't feel like I was receiving a lot of positive feedback and or cheerleading, as, Shayla Buff said, for certain things. For my art, I didn't feel like my art was appreciated or it was valued, or, different things that I wanted to do just for fun, just because, just for the hell of it, or even my spiritual inclinations. I was told, and I was acknowledged and I was affirmed or cheerleaded for other characteristics, right? For being responsible, for being a hard worker, for being X, Y, and Z. And it's not that I don't value those qualities now. I absolutely do value those qualities now. However, I felt like I wasn't being seen for things that were really important to me, for things that I wanted to be seen for, because they weren't socially acceptable and or socially, they weren't socially acceptable or whatever. So I realized that either I could just kind of like just take it, meaning like having to take this identity that was given to me by society, by family, by peers, by school, by whatever, or I could just recognize that I can shut down, literally wielding it's like, I'm going to shut you down. I am literally going to shut down any voice or any opinion that comes outside of me that is in direct contradiction to my truest self-expression. And it was a type of deafening even, meaning where I would literally tune out and make it not valid, right? Like, your opinion of me isn't valid to me. Now, I just like, stay with me, because this is how I want to show you that this is an amazing strength, but it can also, and has been for me, a weakness. It has been an area that has caused pain and has caused disconnect in my romantic relationship is a place that suffered because of that. And I've done so much healing around it. It's not really an area of conflict anymore. But this is one of the aspects of the Huntress archetype where, when you have these great desires for personal self-expression and liberation and freedom, and it's like, well, I don't give a fuck what you say. I don't give a fuck what you think. I'm going to tune out any value that you have because it's not my value system, right? And so when we do that, you're wielding the sword, right? And there's a sacrifice that potentially must be made, meaning I'm willing to sacrifice the opinions, the whatever, the voices, the perception and viewpoint of other people, so that mine can exist, so that I can take up space, so that I have the right to exist, so that I can express and make space for what I want to be seen, how I desire to be seen in the world. So in order to do that, yes, there is a level of sacrifice, meaning where, and I'm not saying that you can't do both, and here's the beauty, right, is that you get to do both. And this is why a lot of people actually don't do it. Highlight this, put this in quotations, whatever you want to do it. This is the reason actually why people don't step into their fullest self-expression, why people don't bring their voice out into the world, why you're not going where you want to go, being who you want to be, looking how you want to look, saying what you want to say, is because of the fear of losing people in your life, of losing the relationships of people that you really love and value and cherish in your life. And so for me, I made a choice where I trusted that me being authentic, me being who I know I am and who I want to see, because what's the alternative? What's the alternative? Choosing to, wear a mask, choosing to be, who you want me to be or how you want to see me because it makes you feel better, or for whatever reason it may be, right? And this is the beauty, is that when this becomes an area that you have mastered, is that it's not personal. It's not personal. You step into the impersonal, because it's not about my ego anymore. When you're making it personal, when you're making it about ego, that's actually what is being sacrificed. It's the ego. It's the part of you that has this identity that's identifying as mean. And so said another way, meaning where, well, I'm just the kind of person that doesn't give a fuck what other people think. That's an ego, meaning that's an identity that I'm choosing to hold. And so as long as I'm attached to that ego, right, it can either serve me or it can limit me. So it's about recognizing that it's actually just a costume, or it's a tool that I get to use at will. Meaning where I'm really surrendered to what is the highest truth for me? What is my true will? What is deepest within me? What is something within me because it matters? Because it really fucking matters to me. And recently, this is some of the work that we did inside of Mars Moxie, inside of the cosmic child frequency, is actually getting really, really deep underneath the layers. That what happens, as we get conditioned, you get conditioned by your family, by society, by peers. And this happens a lot, especially to people that are artists, that are sensitive, that are open, that maybe have a lot more openness in human design, in your human body centers. But there's a lot of different ways that it plays out. Is you're open to conditioning, meaning where it's like a shirt. It's like you think that I'm the shirt, and I get so used to wearing the shirt that I actually think that the shirt is me. But that's actually not me. It's just an identity. It's just a shirt. It's just a layer that I can take off at will. It's a costume. It's so couture. So if I want, I can take it off or I can put it on. And this is the thing with conditioning, is that there's all kinds of conditioning, right? Conditioning isn't bad. Just like colors aren't bad, colors just are. It's like, what color do I want to wear today? Do I want to wear the red shirt where I feel like a badass and I don't give a fuck about what anybody and their mother has to say about it? Or am I like, okay, let me tone down the red a little bit. Tone down the red, sister. Take off the spikes. Put your weapon down for a second. And maybe let's make it pink. So that we make space for me and you. But it's recognizing that, well, I'm the artist here. What do I want? And in certain areas of your life, in certain places of your life, it's important. And so, for example, like when I was just starting out in my journey, and every time that you reach a new level, anytime that you're ready to step into more of who you are, or maybe you're ready to change, it might require like a higher level or a more potent version of a certain tool or a certain archetype. So for example, like when I was just growing up, Jesus, when does it ever fucking stop? But meaning like, so when I was a teenager, and I remember, I was dancing and I was really into music. And so I was really dancing, and I danced really sexual. Like as a teenager, just naturally, without thinking about it, I was a very sexually expressed. And I remember my mom coming in and being like, oh, no, like we don't do that. Like you don't do that. And that, at that point in time, what was going on in my life, I was very impressionable. Your teenage years, by the way, are, it's a time of massive instability. So something to keep in mind is that the more unstable that you may feel in your life, you're not really rooted You're not rock solid, centered and stable into your core, into who you are. You're a lot more easily manipulated, impressed, conditioned, etc., etc. This is the tactic that we've been seeing over and over again in the masses, in the collective, is shake shit up, trigger people, fear propaganda, and then boom, it's easy to come in and manipulate people. So whether, quote unquote, it's being done by an outside force that you see that's working against you, you know, or it could be your mom or whatever. At the end of the day, it's just a mirror reflection. It's just a mirror reflection of the not self, the program, okay? The matrix. So anyhow, coming back at that point in time, that shut me down. I will tell you that I was shut down. I didn't even dance for many years. Knowing, if you guys know who I am and you know what I'm about now, to imagine me not dancing for years upon years, it was so sad because I wasn't being me. But just that one incident, it only happened one time, or maybe it happened more than that, but that is what I remember. It only takes one time. And this is so important, especially I've learned this as a mother, to be very mindful of what I say, what I'm choosing to acknowledge within my children. You know, like, am I only choosing to acknowledge my children for what I want them to think is good? What I want them to onboard as a personality or develop character trait? Or am I really choosing to see them without projecting my own stuff on them, seeing them for them, and maybe seeing qualities about them that they want to be seen for, that they want to be recognized for, that they want to be acknowledged for, but maybe they're not. So this is something that the more that you do this for yourself, the more that you get, it ripples out, right? It's like, I get to be this for my children. And this is really important, especially for, I have my youngest daughter is a projector. And I know that that can be a part of the design of the projector, is taking on that conditioning and not being seen and recognized for certain things. So that's so important to me that I even know that about her. And that, you know, so this is a conversation that I've also shared with my husband. And because we don't know what we don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So all the best that we can do is learn from our own personal experience and alchemize that, have awareness of that, so that then we aren't then making, and we're not replicating things that didn't work for us or that influenced us in a way that didn't serve us. So coming back to, so in that point in time where I got shut down for my dancing, it was also at that time, and actually I think that this really relates to the IQ sphere in the, in the gene keys, but that's another topic of discussion for another day. There's so many different angles and way to look at this. But anyhow, is that I really had to start developing my own value system. Meaning where I wasn't willing to take on the opinions and or values of other people. And really just like, no. Like, and tuning it out. Tuning it out and tuning in. Tuning out the noise. Tuning out the distractions. Tuning out the needing to be validated, needing to be externally validating, the desire to be externally validated for worth, meaning I need somebody else to tell me that I'm good. or I need somebody else to tell me that what I'm saying is valid, or needing somebody else to tell me that my art is beautiful, or that my clothes are beautiful, or that my hair was beautiful. So I got really fucking rebellious. I mean, these are the teenage years, okay? And so again, like, that served me in a lot of ways when it came to radical self-expression, when it came to having the courage to go beyond the belief systems of my family, the religious belief systems of my family, because my parents and my family are born-again Christians. And to this day, like, so much of this has alchemized and changed. I just want to say that now, I can have conversations with my parents and with my mother and with my father and with my brothers and with those of that belief system, because I'm not so opinionated anymore that I am discounting how they're choosing to see things. And I don't need to defend my truth. The truth requires no defense. So this is when you can get to that place when you realize your truth doesn't require a defense. That's how you know it's true for you, is that you don't feel like you need to defend it. Or you don't feel like you have to, like, it's not so, and this is where my journey of refinement started. Like, it was a lot more like freak flag flying in the beginning, right? Because it was just like, there was so much passion and pain and emotional build up behind that's actually what it took to break through. I had to be willing to be seen in my madness. I had to be willing to be seen in my pain. And this is why I say, when it comes to breaking through, like, what is it actually going to take for you to break through? You really just don't care how you're being perceived by others. And what I mean by that is, you're not giving over your personal power to what other people think of you. Because what other people think of you really says so much more about them than it actually does you. And there's a really beautiful quote that has served me well, and I want to share this with you. And this is from Carl Jung, that is, most people judge, or thinking takes effort. Thinking takes work. It's why most people judge. And so let me just break that down a little bit. Said another way is that it takes actually a lot of energy to be curious about, well, why does my mom think that way, right? Why does my mom have her belief systems as to why dancing sexual isn't good? Or why this belief system, why she why you gotta, and this is something that, like I said, when we do this about ourselves and then we can hold the space for others, right? It's not just about my own personal self-expression and fuck everybody else. Now, this is where I can step into taking up personal space, and also having there be space for other people. I give other people the space and the permission to be themselves. Because here's the thing, is if you're not doing that, then it's like you're so loud that that's how you cut out relationships in your life. So this is something I could talk about for a long time. And this is why this is a big part of the work that I do. It is a big part of Mars Moxie and the Huntress Archetype. And so if this is something that you're curious about or something where you're just like, this resonates, like I understand this, or I'm having a challenge with this, or, I desire greater personal self-expression and I'm having a challenge in feeling like I can be all of me, but then I don't want to, lose the relationships in my life, or or stay in my marriage, or stay, in this career, or whatever it may be. These are a lot of the things that in this next round of Mars Moxie, we're going to be delving deeper into working with the Huntress archetype and really understanding, like being able to step into your irreverent self-expression, meaning your personal freedom, being the wild and unexpressed, but at the same time in right relationship to the other, meaning, and whether that's your man, your husband, your personal friendships, your business relationships, your children. And so this is something that I invite you to do just right now. Just, so take these gold nuggets. And because the Huntress archetype, even though it's a feminine archetype, runs a lot of masculine energy. To be able to say, I don't give a fuck what you think, is a very masculine trait. Okay? And so, again, it's masculine energy is wonderful. We need masculine energy for a lot of different things. But if you're doing that at the expense of joy and at the expense of feeling received or being able to receive love, right? Like, what does that do? Like, for me, like, to be self-expressed, right? But then I don't get to have a community, or I don't get to have relationships where people are like, oh my God, that touched me. I love that. The connection isn't there. Then what good is it? Who and what is that really serving, right? It's like we have to be able to move through the different areas of the fullest expression, the illumined expression, not just the shadows of that, okay? So how good are you at receiving? So when it comes to feminine receiving, I'm going to be doing a masterclass, by the way. We start on Friday. It's called Massive Flow. So this is a more intro level. If you're specifically having problems with receiving and being in the feminine aspect, you might want to check out, or I highly do recommend, Massive Flow, which begins on Friday. However, start here. Just start here and see how well this goes for you. Is ask people that you know, it's like with curiosity, like I'm just getting feedback, right? Like, let's fuck around and find out. Like having the courage and the willingness to just get the data that maybe you weren't aware of within yourself. And like I said, so I did this with my son, and let me share with you quickly, because I did it with my son and I did it with my 2 daughters. And like the feedback that I got was so healing. It was so healing. So, but I'm also going to do it with other people. So as I asked, what are 3 strengths that you perceive that I have, that from your perception that you have? What are 3 strengths that you think that I have, and what are 3 weaknesses that you think that I have? So my son, right? So he was saying, he's like, you don't let what other people think sway you. You don't let outside opinions or what other people think keep you from your truth, from your, what you believe is right, or that what you want to take a stand for. Okay. So now, but listen to what my daughter told me. So my daughter's like, well, she's like, Mom, sometimes when you cook and you make food that I don't like, you say that you don't care. You're just like, well, it's because, this food is good for you, and, or, like sometimes we have to eat food that we don't like how it tastes, and, or, well, this is a different kind of spice, and so you don't like it because it's spicy or whatever. And so an older version of me would have reacted to all of that and would have gotten defensive because I wouldn't have been able to receive her feedback, to receive how she felt about it. So what I did is I was just like, thank you so much for sharing that, because, and here's like why I would have gotten defensive about it, is because it's not about that she didn't like my cooking. It was that I was making it mean something. My daughter doesn't like this type of food that I'm cooking. Therefore, that means I'm a bad mom. In the past, I would have made that mean that, I must be a bad mom because my kids don't like every single meal that I'm making for them. I must be a bad mom. So be mindful when you go through this process of what you're making it mean. So if and when you're receiving constructive criticism or when you're receiving feedback that you may not want to hear, what are you making it mean about you? So it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad mom. In fact, a lot of these things, and actually this is what my son was saying, is he's like, this is actually what makes you, from my position, makes you a good mom, or what I love about you, And so I said to my daughter, I said, wow, thank you so much for letting me know. I'm going to make an effort to include your tastes and your value. And so then this went into the whole aspect of my personal style, right? Like my style and or my tastes. So I realized, I was like, oh, snap. This is where I'm actually where I can be a connoisseur snob, right? Where I'm like, you don't like this kind of food? Well, it's because your tastes aren't refined like mine. Some shadowy shit there. And so then I realized, I was like, I just went down a whole rabbit hole with it. And I really got to see a lot about, these other aspects of me that are of strength and that are also a weakness. So anyhow, I invite you to do this. Go ahead and ask your, your friends, your family, business, partnerships, relationships. And this is something that one of my teachers shared with me. So I just want to honor her. Asha was sharing with me in her work with emotional intelligence, and is asking those closest to you, and or maybe not, maybe some personal, relationships or acquaintances and business relationships, what are 3 qualities that they see as your strength, and that 3 qualities that they see as your weakness? And just see how open you are to receiving that. See how open you are to receiving not just receiving the compliments and or how open you are to being seen in a wonderful way and just receiving that openly without making it mean anything, or without just allowing yourself to receive it, just in pure receptivity. So by the way, like I said, we're going to be going deeper into this aspect of feminine receivership and how this will, can be diminishing your ability to receive greater amounts of pleasure in your life, how it could be diminishing your ability to receive greater amounts of money in your life, joy in your life, whatever it is that you desire to create. So we're going to be going into this. I invite you to join me inside of Massive Flow. Again, I will put the link here in the comments for you to join us. It is a series of 2 epic live streams, as well as some really transformational pre-work that in and of itself, if you do it, will change your life, because it's going to start the deconditioning process. It's going to start tuning you into the places where you're still holding conditioning, where you're still holding on to other not self behaviors that may not be serving you. Yeah, so I recommend starting there if you're wanting something like as an intro level. Again, if you are really into the Huntress archetype and like really stepping into, exponential, truly exponential levels of liberation, personal liberation, self-expression, creative self-expression, your voice, leadership, standing up for what you believe in, drawing your line in the sand. And as this pertains to your business and your life purpose, join me for Mars Moxie round 2. We begin January 11th. It is a mastermind. It is the last a la carte program to be offered before Star Disco fully transitions into a 1-year apprenticeship, which that will be my last invitation, or rather other than working with me in a one-on-one mentorship container. This is just beneath that. It's one-on-one apprenticeship mentorship is a 1-year minimum. And this includes working with all of the different planetary rites of passage, but it's so much more than initiations. This goes above and beyond personal initiations, though that is a big part of what your personal mythology is about. Initiation is just the first part. Initiation is just the first part of your personal mythological, stepping into your personal mythos. So I would just want to be clear on that, because I feel that what I have seen with some people is that they're like, I get it. It's just about like recognizing when the initiations come. That's just scratching the surface. That's just the first part. And what is really, what is a part of human nature, and it's just human nature. So I say this with a lot of compassion, and just saying this from somebody where it's like, don't fool yourself, is that first of all, there's multiple initiations that can be happening at the same time. And that just because you're good at a lot of people are really good at doing things in the beginning. Because just look at, we're in the new year, right? Everybody's already starting to think about 2000. It's human nature. At the gym, everybody goes to the gym, and then 3 months later, nobody's in the gym. Everybody's super excited at the beginning of something, the first 3 months of something, and then they fizzle out. And then they wonder why they're not maintaining the momentum, and or why they're actually not having what it is that they desire, is because there's a lot more than just being initiated into something. That's engagement. That's the engagement phase. That's saying like, so when it comes to devotion, your devotional practice, it's like initiation is just the engagement ring. It's just saying, all right, let's get engaged. And then how long are you going to stay engaged before you fully commit to the marriage? Because marriage, a lot of reasons why people don't get married, a lot of reasons why people actually aren't married, a lot of reasons why 96% of humanity is in mediocrity, is because people are happy to stay engaged, people are happy to stay married as long as it's pleasurable. And when it's not pleasurable, then the engagement is off. When they don't get what they want first crack out of the box, or when it's asking more than what they thought it was going to take, you don't have to be a scientist to see an example of this going on in the coaching industry right now, where there's a lot of disgruntled people because they're not making $100,000, you know, the first 3 months in business, or the first year in business, or the first however amount of time in business, that automatically, well, it's not for me, or it just doesn't work. We've all got very different personal limitations on ourselves. There's, quantum leaping. I saw somebody, the other day say something about, you don't need to be in a long-term container, in order to, have $100,000 month. Like, I took a program, I invested $2,000 in a program, and, and after that, I got my first $100,000 month. And what that person wasn't being honest about, and what that person wasn't actually speaking to, was, well, wait a minute. How many years were you in business, plateaued at $50,000, and you're not actually counting the mentorship, you're not actually counting the work, you're not actually counting the foundational structure that was being laid in order for that tension to build up that actually facilitated the quantum leap. So, I really want to speak to that, because, it's really easy to, especially if you're promoting something saying like, you don't need to do long-term commitments, or you don't, well, yeah, of course you're going to use evidence to back up, your own promotion. And that's not telling the whole truth. And that's not looking at the whole picture, not the whole big picture, which is what I'm a big proponent of. I have Jupiter rising. It's something that I'm always going to be doing. The balance between the forest and the trees, looking at the micro minutia detail, as well as, okay, but what's the bigger picture, right? And being able to do both is really important. You need to be able to do both. And that's microvision, which is a mercurial trait, versus big picture vision, which is a Jupiter trait. And of course, we can go into the elements of that as well. So anyhow, any questions, please let me know. I didn't expect this to be as long, but when I start going on something, I go till it goes. But I'm gonna go now. And thank you so much for watching. Hashtag replay so that I can connect with you and also answer any questions that you have. I do truly enjoy feedback. I really do enjoy knowing what spoke to you, what your takeaways are